So our first technique is dry brush. And that's exactly, I kind of consider this kind of the most basic tool in your toolbox for painting with acrylic paint. Using a dry brush, most of you will do this kind of as you go, but I like to start a little bit broad. And so taking a dry brush and then seeing kind of how these paints actually paint on here. Okay? Now when, again, you're creating these little samples, the things that I want you to think about are what are some different things you can do with your brush, the brushes themselves, to get these samples looking differently. Am I gonna just try to make a solid box? Am I trying to go as light as possible? Am I actually coming in here and putting, you know, two different pieces of paint or two different color paints down and then coming and cleaning my brush, drying it off, and then like smearing it through? All these different things. Is it different pressures? Am I gonna be pushing down? Kind of twirling my brush, okay, swiping. Okay. Trying to get as many different looking samples with just this simple dry brush. Now don't think you just have to use one brush. I want you to think about all of the brushes that you have, and maybe this little red one is gonna be easier for me to do smaller, thinner lines. Okay. Maybe I wanna see how much, if I just fill my paint brush with paint, how many times I could go along before it runs out of paint. Okay. A bunch of different ideas. Dry brush, again, it's the most broad technique when it comes to painting with acrylic paint. And so there's a ton of different samples that you can think about doing. Hey, I might try to blend some of these different colors, seeing what I can do with this paint and with my brushes. Keeping in mind, we're just trying to use a dry brush on dry paper.